right, let's have a look into the future with award-winning futurist, researcher, and keynote speaker Nikolas Badminton on Canada Now. Oh, Nick, I'll tell you, I always look forward to when you're coming in.
Let's do it.
But this week, man, this week we're talking about Mars.
Yeah, we are.
We're talking about going to Mars, and when are we going to be living on Mars? A city on Mars. Come on. Is this happening? Is this going to happen?
Oh, you know what? It's really interesting. We started this conversation to, think about this segment because Elon Musk wants to create a 1 million-person colony on Mars by 2050.
Yes.
Elon Musk. I always say to my audiences and the people I work with, it's like, here's $1 million, bet against Elon Musk, and it's hard to.
Yeah.
But this, this isn't very far. In 30 years, having to develop all the technology and to ship 1 million people and to establish everything. It's a no.
And all the things that need to go up there.
Yeah.
So what was his plan? Like he's planning on, because there's some restrictions that go along with how many times you could go there. But looking at like the continuously shipping equipment and everything that you would need and supplies and everything that you would need back and forth to Mars. And he's looking at doing this like 3 times a day for X amount of, something like that.
It's just, this is the Silicon Valley rhetoric, right? It's like, we can do anything, exponential technologies.
Yeah, but I like that.
The future,
I
let's
like
go.
that way of thinking, though.
Let's go, we're billionaires, we can go to space and we can own it, and it's amazing, 1 million people on Mars. And do you know what? It's not a bad thing to think about the big goals.
Yeah.
Some call it moonshots, but I kind of think that I want to remove that idea. And I want to ground us in the idea of radical creativity to create solutions to do something amazing. Is going to Mars a useful activity? Yes. Scientific missions, landing there, working out what it takes to potentially terraform and live there and what society could be like, for sure. It's difficult to start a city today on Earth and then for that to be like 1 million people.
Yeah.
In 30 years' time. But you could run exactly the same experiment here, but put people at the North Pole.
Well, yeah, put people at the North Pole, but I mean, I would think a massive difference. See, because I think this is the biggest question when it comes to pioneers, not astronauts, pioneers on Mars is the radiation. Like, where would you have to live? Like, would you have to be like stuck in a cave where it's like, well, the radiation isn't so bad over here. It's if you're right on the surface, oh my goodness, you're done.
Radiation suits and radiation safe sort of place to live. I mean, where will we live? How will we generate oxygen? How will we grow food? How are we going to live together? As soon as you got a group of people over 100, 120 people in size, communication breaks down, let alone 1 million people, right? We have to work it out. I mean, we're going to, crime, medicine, procreation, economy, ownership and colonization, transportation, education, sustainability. We start having families up there and whatever. These are all things that are really useful to explore. And I'm actually exploring it quite significantly in some of the work that I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
More on that to come. But it's interesting. I got a chance to meet Commander Chris Hadfield.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago. Amazing guy.
Yes,
when you see him prepare for a talk, he's preparing for liftoff because it's like everything's perfect. It's amazing. He's a real hero. But he says this, we've gone to the moon. And thinking about Mars is like this. Going to the moon is like taking a little boat. You and I on a little boat on the Rideau in Ottawa with some sandwiches and hats to protect us from the sun. And we have a nice day. Going to Mars is like thinking about taking that boat and us 2 people and rowing to Australia. In terms of distance and challenges and the likelihood of death and, all of these things.
Right.
It's thousands of times more complicated to get to Mars. It's a long, long way away. It's an incredibly brutal place to live. The resources we need aren't necessarily there, but people are trying to work out, how we can use what is there to build out these colonies. But I think the next 30 years, we're going to work out something. And sure, I think that there are going to be some scientific communities, very much that live in Antarctica or up at the Arctic or whatever, on Mars. And I think that you will have people going back and forth there, probably a couple of times a year. But, that maybe that's a little bit too too conservative as an idea to achieve, but it's not easy. I mean, you sign up to go to Mars in 2050. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big clause at the bottom that says you might die.
Right.
Cool. Okay, I'm willing to die and to do this mission. Yeah. Do you think 1 million people are willing to die to go and live on Mars? It's kind of...
Depends. Is Trump still president?
Oh, man. Robo-Trump. They've harvested his brain and put it in a robot.
He's still president. People are like, where do I sign?
Oh, man. Yeah, but like, it's interesting, right? It's,
Well, but what about... do we first... need to build on the moon as a stopover to get to Mars?
Yeah, so that's the idea, and there's actually a lot of lunar. Well, I think we chatted about lunar colonies.
We did,
a few weeks ago, and that's going to happen. It's kind of useful, and there's all sorts of things like H3 and whatever that we can potentially harvest and bring back to the Earth, and there's really lots of potential in terms of like solar power from space and like lots of opportunity. Mars is just... It's so weird. Over the years, do you remember Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, with the eyes bugging out of his head.
Let's go to Mars. He's had a schizoid embolism. Oh my God! And the Resistance and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
And even Ad Astra, which was the film with Brad Pitt, was about Mars, and space pirates and all sorts of cool stuff as well. Right? I won't spoil it too much for people. It's not bad to think about these things, but it's going to be very particular people and very particular settlements that happen there. And it's going to take a while. What Musk is saying is this: we're going to have the spaceships, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to have SpaceX's Starship and super heavy hardware to do it, right? Mm-hmm. And then potentially we've got the opportunity to do interplanetary travel. Cool. I think all of this is achievable in 30 years. I just don't believe the 1 million people on Mars thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, but you know what? I like that there is somebody out there that is pushing that envelope, that is thinking this big. Who else is doing it other than Elon Musk?
Right. So 2 years ago, I was down in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And it was Christmas. And on Christmas Eve, I went to a dinner, and I was invited. And I was sat around a table. There's about 25 people. Half of them were space entrepreneurs.
Really?
Yeah. There are hundreds of companies around the world that are investing in building infrastructure and technologies and a whole bunch of different things, from food to sustainability to genetics to whatever, to go into space. It's going to be a huge industry. It's going to be trillions of dollars in size. And such a huge opportunity because, we're here to explore. Every single person in the world is here to explore, whether that's on the street that you live in or whether you go to Mars, right? Mm-hmm. And that human drive to ask, what if? What if we do it? What if we take that step forward? We're only going to end up with more innovations that make life on Earth better, I hope.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would hope so. Throughout doing, but I wonder if, and this is, we'll long be dead when this happens, but I wonder if we will take over another planet, and then this one will just be like, just a dumpster fire.
Oh, come on.
Kind of like WALL-E.
No.
I always think about the movie WALL-E.
Oh.
You've seen that, right?
Makes me sad. I mean, they talk about exoplanets. We found 13 exoplanets in this galaxy. It's like, cool. How far away are they? Like 13 million light years. Well, we can't get there. Right? But
great that they're there.
But it's interesting, is there life apart from the Earth? Of course there is, seriously.
Oh, I think so.
Have we had alien visitations? Discuss, right? I don't know. That's very, very strange. We're assuming that, like, civilizations elsewhere are hugely advanced. I mean, we're not really advanced in the scheme of things.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they could be hugely advanced, or they could be just a bunch of dopes, for all we know.
Exactly.
Maybe they're like the dumbest life forms you could possibly, like, we thought we were it.
Yeah.
Maybe they are.
Yeah. I remember reading The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and what happened was, what was it? They got rid of the handset sanitizers from telephones, and they sent them to a planet called Google Frincham. Yeah. And what happened was that I think it was the Earth that they left, but everyone died from diseases they caught off of like telephone handsets, right?
That's so funny.
I love playing with these ideas. Science fiction and these big ideas. I mean, it's driving our world forward, all the way back, like everything from H.G. Wells and what he was thinking about, like time travel, and Orwell in 1984, and A Brave New World by Huxley. All these people, it's great, and people like Elon Musk are like a modern version of science fiction storytellers, but he's kind of building the technology that comes out of it, right? Which is important, and thousands of entrepreneurs and people around the world are really driving humanity forward in many aspects, and I think that that's amazing. Elon Musk is the king of PR. The king of PR.
Yeah, but if his end game is to have the money to build the things that he needs to do the impossible, things like having like Tesla and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, I have all that stuff just to pay for the stuff I really want to do. So if his big picture and his big end game is to advance humanity in a tremendous way like nobody has ever done before, that's cool.
Yeah,
PR away.
Totally, and he'll own the patents on it, and we'll be beholden to those systems, right?
Yeah. So what we do know, and look, we've just talked about like the most grandiose of ideas, but little steps.
Yes.
NASA has a new Mars 2020 rover. They're going to be deploying it this summer.
Yes.
And is that rover going to go on a mission where we might finally learn if life once existed on Mars?
Well, I think I was reading about this, and it's going to travel about 12 miles or sort of in a 12-mile radius and look around. I mean, it's kind of interesting. Set yourself a goal or set yourself some hypotheses and see if you can answer that positively or negatively, right? And it's going to be out there. It's going to be checking things out. And
it's going to be like digging up rocks and putting them in tubes and storing them there for like 5 years,
right.
And then they're going to be brought down to Earth,
right?
For further study.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that be something if it did in fact learn if there was life on Mars once upon a time? That's a massive game changer.
Yeah, I mean, it'd certainly be weird life, though. Hey, we're not talking about like people like you and I, or humans, or even the basic sort of unicellular structures that we've sort of evolved from in millions of years.
Yeah.
It could be something quite interesting. We're carbon-based life forms. Are they silicon-based life forms? Are they sulfur-based life forms? Who knows, right?
Sure, right.
There's a lot of speculation, and there's a lot of limits to what we know in terms of biology, even on this planet, and we're still really fighting to push the boundaries of our knowledge there. It's going to be really interesting to see if we find anything, because there's, they found water or traces of water and ice and a whole bunch of things.
Yeah.
If those things exist, is the likelihood that something lives inside of that? Sure. I think it's a huge likelihood, very high potential for finding something. Mm-hmm. What is it? It's the X-Files, Jeff.
Yeah, I know.
But like, who knows?
Some three-eyed fish or something.
Yeah, it's like Blinky. Right?
Blinky.
Yeah. But like, something, we brought it back to Earth.
Yeah.
We have enough trouble right now with Chinese coronaviruses and all sorts of stuff, right? So who knows?
We're trying to not mismanage our own planet, let alone that one. But another success with this new Mars 2020 rover is that a small helicopter is going to be attached to it.
Yeah.
And if it can fly, it'd be the first aircraft to fly on another planet, at least that we know of.
Indeed. If it's Air Canada, is it going to be late or delayed by storm?
How long have we been waiting for this Mars 2020 rover?
Exactly.
I am like an hour late
it's
here.
Like, where's my free sandwiches?
I've been on hold with Mars forever. Could they just give me... Could they just call me... Could they just leave me some kind of... Give me some detail. When is this thing showing up? Can I rebook my rover mission? Is there anything that can be done? This is very exciting, and... we'll be talking about this.
Yeah,
this is a topic we'll be revisiting. That's for sure.
I love it, Jeff. It's this is something I'm going to spend a lot of time on over the next few years. Just thinking about this and tracking it and seeing and asking myself, what if?
Yeah.
What if we do manage to land a scientific mission on Mars? And what if we think about building a settlement there for science? And what if maybe one day you and I, our robot future selves, We'll be there.
And our kids and our grandkids, they'll all be living up there, and they'll be like, you only lived on Earth? How did you? What kind of life is that?
I think
that's
what
they'll be saying.
Yeah, Mars Talks.
Yeah. That's right.
On Sirius XM.
Sirius XM is going to Mars.
Intergalactic.
I think it's going to happen by 2050. Check out NikolasBadminton.com. Futurist researcher, keynote speaker Nikolas Badminton. Always a pleasure, my friend. Keep us posted on this story, that's for sure.
I will, for sure. Take care, Jeff.
We'll talk again.